Hey everybody, I wanted to talk this evening for a few minutes about storytelling, and not only storytelling, but storytelling truthfully. And I feel like I'm in that season of my life now where all the stories that I've accumulated up to this point, I love to tell stories, write stories, make videos about stories. And I thought about this because I've shared some videos and writings about my Granny Bratcher, and I did this book right here for a part of my little childhood. It's on Amazon, Eddie Sellers, The Cabbagetown Years. And I thought about this in the context, like this book right here is really, I said on page 13, but give me just a second right here. I remember putting this in here where I said, in the process of writing this book, it was never my intention to hurt anyone. And because of this, there are places that I choose not to be as forthcoming, but I shared as much as I truthfully could. And the word truthfully is what I want to just kind of impress upon you this evening. When we are talking about people in our family, our experiences in life, there's this adage that we're all raised up with: if you can't say nothing good about somebody, don't say anything at all. That's horrible advice. That's horrible advice. But I will tell you this: if you can't say something about somebody where you don't have no malice or bitterness or vindictiveness in you, when you're sharing stories about other people, it has to come from a place of it has to come from a clean heart. You know, you can't take the pen and settle scores with it. It works against the flow of nature and energy and vibrations. It bogs you down, actually. For example, when I came from a large family with a bunch of huge personalities, from my second cousin Floyd, who couldn't speak plain, to my Aunt Corrine. And I know in writing that book, I tell about my Aunt Corrine. She, in her young life, she was in Milledgeville Mental State Hospital, and she had brain shock treatments, they called it back then. And I tell about my experiences as a young boy with her coming home from the mental hospital. I don't write that and tell these stories to disparage like Corrine. I loved her. I tell this because these are stories that go through families. These are events that life is not supposed to be. Life in general is not supposed to be like a funeral service where when you go to it and somebody gets up there and they're saying all these things about this person. That's not true. You know, they'll say like, he'd give you the shirt off his back. Well, the person laying there could be so stingy, they wouldn't give you $2 if your life depended on it. So anyhow, I thought about this thing in storytelling and in writing and in speaking because all of us are storytellers. You know, preaching is basically just storytelling. I know people say, you know, death, burial, and resurrection of Christ, but if somebody can't preach it in a way and tell their stories in a way that compels people, all that really don't amount to nothing. The difference between a good preacher and a preacher that's not so talented is a good preacher knows how to weave good storylines into a message. If you listen to somebody like I have, like Dr. Wayne Dyer, he's basically a storyteller who's enlightened. And for example, I was listening to him. He was telling Oprah about when he had so much rage and hate and anger toward his dad, who dropped him off and abandoned him and his mom when he was a child, and he was raised in an orphanage, went through foster care. But anyhow, when he was a grown man in his 30s, he'd heard that his dad had died 10 years ago. And he was so full of rage and anger. This was his story, and this is a man who's almost like a father of enlightenment. And he tells the stories where he went to Biloxi, Mississippi, to his father's grave to urinate on it. And he said, he tells the story, but something shifted in him, and instead of cursing him, he blessed him. And instead of urinating on him, he told him he loved him. And he said it changed the whole trajectory of his life. He went and checked into a motel room in Fort Lauderdale or somewhere, and he wrote a book in a few days that sold millions of copies. So anyhow, storytelling. Here's what I'm going to say: if we are coming from the reason I'm able to post things in the mornings about family, about situations, about events. I'm working on a book now about, when I started in a little church and those first 10 or 15 years maybe of some stories there's stories in everything. And here's what I would encourage you to do. From your childhood to your middle years to your older years, you're full of stories. I noticed in the last couple of weeks, I was reading the chapter in the Cabbagetown book about Levy Bratcher, my grandmother. And when I first read it, as I'm reading her words, because I love my granny so much, good heavens, I just adored her. I have so many stories. You think I've told stories about my grandmother? You think I've told stories about my aunts and uncles? I haven't even scratched the little surface of any. You think I've told all the stories about me and Sammy, about me and John? I have layers and layers of them, But here's what I thought about in Truthfulness. It was difficult to write this book because our lives are incorporated into other people's lives. We don't have a right to tell other people's story. But we have a right to tell our story if it incorporates in our walk with other people. And the reason I'm able to do it, and the reason I thought about posting this evening, was I want to do a video here in the next few weeks about John Vance Bratcher, my grandfather. And I don't never really speak of him much. I was 12 years old when he died. I was in the house in the middle of the night when he died. I loved him. There was a lot of good about him. There was some things I probably wouldn't share. There are other things I could share that would, because I come from a pure heart, I come from a clean heart, because I love him. But he had a history that was that nobody, the thing about it is, like, nobody in my family ever talks of him, knows much about him. I knew him up until I was a 12-year-old boy, eating biscuits with him. He'd take me down on the bus to Atlanta Municipal Auditorium on Friday nights and take me to live Atlanta wrestling. His favorite wrestler was Freddie Blassie. I don't want this to be about John Bratcher. I just know so much about him. I can't tell people about John Vance Bratcher without telling some stuff about John Vance Bratcher. And maybe I couldn't have done this 10 years ago in my 40s. God, I wish I was 10 years ago in my 40s. That would have been 20 years ago. Maybe I couldn't have been a writer in my 30s. In my 30s, I did all these religious pamphlets where I didn't put a whole lot of personal me in it. It was just, little baptisms and stuff like that. And maybe I couldn't have written stuff then because maybe I carried stuff with me in this journey. But I can write now. And if I'm ever writing, or if I'm ever doing one of these videos, and I feel like there's an energy that I sense where I'm like, my intention's never to hurt nobody. That's not who I am. It's not who God made me to be. It wasn't something that I prayed through and God delivered me from the hands of Satan and changed me into a good person. From a little boy, that's just who I am. That's who I came into this earth to be. Somebody that doesn't like hurting people. Somebody who doesn't like making somebody else feel less than or bad or mocked or made light of. That's just in my spirit, in my heart. That's who I've always been. So anyhow, there's a way to do this and to do it truthfully. if I knew it was really going to hurt somebody, I wouldn't do it. Because then that's not about writing something to hurt somebody. That's about me not having the spirit of love enough and the knowledge of word enough to do it in a way where I can share something that's very powerful, but not do it in a place where it's destructive, if you understand what I mean. 10 minutes is up. Good Wednesday. It's going to be raining tonight. Hopefully we're going to have some storms. It's already July the 7th. Good heavens, people. Thank y'all for watching. These little posts, and now I'll tell you later on why I think I'd like to do a little Wednesday video for 10 minutes or whatever. The power of our words, the power of our energies, the power to be creative, the power that you could say something that not only lifts yourself but speaks to somebody else. Love y'all. Bye.